Now, before we start the real meditation, I'd like to teach you some practical exercises. Even if whether you do these few metta meditation and the frequent contemplation or not, there are a few basic exercises that a meditator should do. The first one is breathing exercise. We take a deep breath in, and you take and slowly let it out. It must be at a natural pace, not too fast, not too slow. Take a deep breath in and out. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. This exercise is to remove the stale air from our lungs. You can either do it both nostrils together, or you can shut the right nostril, breathe in through the left nostril, and then let the breath go out through the right nostril. Then you take in the breath through the right nostril, and let it out through the left nostril. And then take it in from the left nostril again, and out through the right nostril, and in from the right nostril, and out by the left nostril. This breathing in and out, you can do about 10 times to change the air in you. Especially if there are some people who do office work and they don't have much opportunity to exercise. And the second exercise to relax your body is some neck exercises. You can bend your head backwards, that as far as it can go, and then you bend it around in a circle like this. Then you change direction. Then you move your shoulders like that to relax. These might be important for somebody who comes back from the office a bit tensed up. And you want to meditate, you have to do all this to relax yourself. The neck is one of the areas in our body which is seldom exercised. And you see some people, they do this bending of the neck. They can't bend their neck very far, and they go like that. But if you are used to bending your neck, then you can bend it quite low. Now the other thing, before we begin meditation, for a lot of people, for most people, you have to relax for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes. When you close your eyes, before you begin meditation, you just tell yourself that you're going to relax. And don't think of any meditation object. This is for most people, they have a lot of things, for lay people especially. You have a lot of things in your mind, especially if you have a job. You come back from the office, a lot of things in your mind. So when you start meditating straight away, you're going to end up with a headache. A lot of people have a headache if they start meditating too fast. So you just close your eyes, and if you stay in a quiet place, there's no sound to distract you, then you just close your eyes and tell yourself you're going to relax. You're going to relax. Even imagine you're going to fall asleep. But as long as you keep your body straight, you won't fall asleep. So just tell yourself to relax, close your eyes and relax for a few minutes. Totally relax your brain, and slowly you can imagine relaxing your head, relaxing your neck, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your arms, relaxing your chest, relaxing your abdomen, like that, slowly all the way down. So we'll just relax for a few minutes, keep our eyes closed. Okay, you can open your eyes now. The reason why we want to relax in the beginning is, you can think of a simile of a lamp. If you have a lamp with a flame in the middle and a glass on the outside, if you open the flame too big suddenly, the glass can't stand it, and the glass will crack. So what you have to do is, you have to warm up the glass slowly by putting a small flame. And as the glass warms up, then you increase the flame. Now we have these 6 sense doors, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the thinking faculty. And in a normal waking state, our energy goes out through these 6 sense doors. A lot of our energy goes out through the 6 sense doors. And because of that, our mind becomes scattered, our mind becomes dark. The Buddha said that originally the mind is bright. And because of defilements, the objects of the 6 sense doors, taking away our attention, taking away our energy, that is why the mind becomes dark. So some of you may have noticed, when you are relaxing, you close your eyes and you are not doing anything, just relaxing. Just by closing your eyes and you have nothing to listen to, the mind naturally starts to concentrate. The mind starts to warm up, as it were. So that is the preliminary warming up that is required before you start to concentrate the mind. That is why this is very important for most people, just to relax for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the beginning, just to make the mind slowly concentrate, warm up. Because if you don't do that and you try to meditate straight away, you try to focus your mind and concentrate your mind before it has warmed up, then you will get pain in the head. And a lot of beginners, you experience this. The brain is just like a computer, There are many circuits in our brain. And when we close our eyes and our ears, and then certain of the circuits that normally we don't use, they start to energize up. Some of you who have meditated longer, you may experience as you progress in your meditation, there are certain tingling sensations in your brain as concentration develops. It is as though there are certain circuits of the brain being slowly activated, which were not activated before. Now, in meditation, it is very important that we sit very straight. The spine must be very, very straight. The spine, normally, it is advisable to sit on a cushion to elevate your buttocks and make it very straight. Now, I want to show you from the side how sitting very straight means. You see, a normal person sitting, when we sit after a little longer, we tend to relax our body. And when we relax our body, what happens is there is a slight slouch of the body, something like this. It may not be very noticeable, but there is a slight slouch, there's a slight bend. You see, if you sit very straight, you look at the difference as I begin to straighten up, even though this position looks quite straight. But when I begin to straighten up, it becomes like this. When it is straight like this, this cushion actually helps to keep the body straight. And there is a part of the spinal column here which can develop some pain if it's not very straight. That is why we need to sit very straight. The second reason is, if we sit very straight, it is easy for the energy to flow through our spine. And when you get good meditation, you will notice that the spine straightens by itself. When what they call the chi, the energy flows, the spine becomes naturally very straight. So to help the chi to flow, we keep our spine very straight. This is very important and something that is not stressed very often. So very often you find some people meditating and later they develop a slouch like that, and then they become very sleepy and they start to doze, and even they are not aware of it. That is why in the early Zen school in China, this was very much stressed. The teacher would go around with a kind of a flat stick. If you are not sitting very straight, he'll hit you on the back to make it sure that you sit very straight. This may seem not very important to some people, but you can be assured that it is very, very important. It is like in learning Kung Fu. Like in the old school in China, they learn Kung Fu. The master doesn't teach you everything all at once, I was told by an old man whom I knew many years ago. He said that when he was young, he learned from the Shaolin temple. And the old monks, the first thing that he was taught was to stand, what they call the mapo, the horse stand with the legs slightly bent. And he had to train in that position, just that one position for about 1 year, He wasn't taught any other thing, just that thing for 1 year. And to test whether he was ready or not, the master would come from behind and give him a kick slightly at the calf there. And if his leg was not firm enough, he would topple, he would fall down. And that was the purpose of developing such a strong leg position, so that whenever he got any blow, he would not fall down, he would be very firm. So in the same way, in our meditation, the sitting posture is very important to maintain our mindfulness. You see, anybody, if his body is anybody sitting in meditation, if the body is very erect, then that person is mindful. When that person is no more mindful, you can see that person is either not sitting very straight, or the body starts to move, starts to shake. And usually he will slouch forward in a sleepy position. So these are the preliminaries that we have to know. Now we come into this meditation on the self that we are supposed to learn tonight. This meditation on the self is the fourth type of Buddhist meditation mentioned in the Anguttara Nikaya 4.170, where the Venerable Ananda said that all the monks and nuns who attained arahanthood came to declare to him that they all attained arahanthood by one of four ways. The first one is to practice samatha first, followed by vipassana. As you know, samatha means tranquilization, vipassana means contemplation. So you practice tranquilization first, followed by contemplation. That's the first method. The second one is the reverse. Contemplation first, followed by tranquilization. And the third is practicing samatha and vipassana at the same time. And the fourth one is the meditation on the self. The object of meditation is the self. And you're supposed to focus on that object, the self, until the mind becomes one-pointed. And then, according to the sutta, the way becomes clear for that person. This meditation, is like the other meditations, always comprise. Buddhist meditation always comprises of two things, samatha and vipassana. So the samatha part is to focus on the feeling of the self. Yeah. And the vipassana part is like the other Buddhist meditations, is to focus on the body and the mind. Because that is the mortal part of us, and that is the part that all beings take to be the self. The Buddha said, if we refer to ourselves in the past life, or the present or the future life, it is always in connection with the body and the mind. And the mind consists of the four parts, the feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. So, this vipassana partner is to always remember that the body and the mind is not I, is not mine, is not myself. These three aspects are always mentioned in the suttas. Not I, not mine, not myself. This word sati in the Buddha's teachings is the seventh factor of the Aryan Eightfold Path. And this seventh factor, sati, is to remember. This word sati comes from a word which is spelled as M-R-T-I. And this root word means to remember. So this real meaning of sati is also to remember. What is it we have to remember? We have to remember that this body and this mind is not I, is not myself, is not mine. We always have to remember this. All beings, we have two parts of us, the mortal part and the immortal part. And we always make the mistake of taking the mortal part to be the self. And this mortal part is the body and the mind. There is an immortal part in us. In Buddhism it's called the unconditioned state, the uncreated, the unborn. And that is the part we want to return to, because that is the source. That is the source, our original home. So we want to return to our original home. And our original home, our original source, is that now which has created the world. It is that which has created the sixth consciousness. And the sixth consciousness is the world. And there we find ourselves as a body and a mind. So this is the vipassana part of this meditation, always to remember that this body and this mind is not the self. So in remembering that this body and this mind is not the self, we always have to maintain a sort of observer attitude towards this body and this mind. We act like a witness, observing the body and the mind, and we don't become involved in the body and the mind. Whenever we become involved with the body and the mind, then we become back that person, this mortal person. Whenever we use the mind, we are trying to protect the self, usually. So we come back to become this mortal person. But if we want to return to our original home, then we want to divorce ourselves from this person, this body and this mind. That is why if we keep on watching our body and mind every day, we don't get involved. We remain equanimous and we don't take part in the workings of the mind. This is not easy because for lifetime after lifetime, we have been involved with mind. We have been taking this mind as a very good friend. Why? Because it is this mind which has been protecting us lifetime after lifetime. Protecting this body, that is. Protecting this body and this mind, this scheming mind, this calculating mind is very powerful. And it is precisely because that we use this mind that we are the number one creature in this world. Man is the top creature in this world. Even an elephant, such a huge creature, cannot challenge man. Even the tiger, so fierce, also cannot challenge man. Why? Because we have a more developed mano, more developed mind. That's why mano, from this word mano, we get the word man, M-A-N. So in wanting to return back to our original home, we don't want to use this mind because that is the way of the world. And that is not easy to remain independent, to watch the mind without taking part. So every day, if we have sati, we are supposed to look into our mind and just remain equanimous, don't get involved, and don't follow the mind. And that is a practice you have to do every day. But when we sit down to meditate, we try to develop the samatha part. The samatha part is quite difficult to do for most people. Quite difficult. That's why you can only do it when you sit down and your eyes are closed. You cannot develop samadhi when you are walking around with your six sense doors open. You cannot develop real samadhi. You can just develop only mindfulness, sati sampajanya, but you cannot develop real samadhi. To develop real samadhi, you have to close your five sense doors, and then only can your mind become one-pointed. So these are the two aspects. Now, one very good reason why we need to develop samadhi or practice samatha is because when we practice sati, when we observe the mind, when we are practicing vipassana, it is very difficult to remain independent. It is very difficult not to use the thinking faculty because we are so used to using the thinking mind that it is not easy to remain indifferent, equanimous. But in the Buddha's discourse, the Buddha said the real practice of sati is to watch the body or to observe the nature of the body, feelings, the mind, and reflect on Dhamma, but without thoughts arising. Without thoughts arising. The fact that thoughts arise often is a source of problem for us. There is one sutta called the Sakkapanha Sutta in the Digha Nikaya. In this sutta, the Sakadevaraja came to see the Buddha, and he asked this question of the Buddha. He said, Lord, men and devas, they all long for peace and harmony. Yet, even though they long for peace and harmony, there are quarrels, there are fights and all that in the world. Why is that so? And the Buddha said, the reason is because of greed and jealousy. Because of greed and jealousy, people can't help but quarrel and fight with each other. Then Sakadevaraja had to agree. Then he asked the Buddha, what is the cause for greed and jealousy? And the Buddha said, the cause for greed and jealousy is like and dislike. And what is the cause of like and dislike? The Buddha said, desire. And what's the cause of desire? The Buddha said, thinking. Thinking gives rise to desire. And then Sakadevaraja asked, what is the cause of thinking? Then the Buddha said, the tendency to proliferation of the mind. The tendency to proliferation of the mind means one thought gives rise to 10 thoughts. 10 thoughts give rise to 100 thoughts. The tendency for the mind to multiply the thinking. And what is the cause for the tendency of the mind to proliferate? Then the Buddha said there are two kinds of happiness. There is one kind of happiness due to thinking and pondering. There is another kind of happiness that is without thinking and pondering. And the Buddha said the kind of happiness that is without thinking and pondering is the more superior, the more excellent of the two. So you can see this thinking, this happiness without thinking is a state of one-pointedness of mind. More specifically in the second jhana and above. The second jhana is a state where the thinking ceases. So if a person can attain the second jhana and experience the bliss without thinking, then the tendency of the mind to proliferate, to think, is stopped. Otherwise, for most people, the tendency to think is very strong. That is why many people, even when they are not doing anything, they tend to daydream. How nice if I were to go on a holiday. How nice if this were to happen. You start to fantasize. You like to imagine. And because of this tendency, you find when we go to sleep, we start dreaming. All over the world we are dreaming. So, it is in order to stop this tendency of the mind to think that we practice samatha, and that is why we try to develop samadhi. So when we have the ability to develop the one-pointedness of mind, the samadhi, and attain the happiness without thinking, then we have stopped this tendency of the mind to prolapse to the observation. So, now of this meditation. This meditation on the self, if you close your eyes, for many people, you close your eyes and you imagine that your body has died, that you are no more in that body, that you don't have a body anymore. And then with your eyes closed, you ask yourself, do I exist? And for most people, you would have to answer that you exist. And if you are asked why you say that you exist, then the answer must be that you have this feeling, a very strong feeling of I, what in the suttas is described as I am or I exist. This feeling I exist, even without the body, is quite prominent for many people. And that is that feeling you stay with. You just stay with that feeling, I exist. That is one way. The second way, for some people, they observe the knowing mind, the knowing nature. What in the Thai forest tradition they call the knowing one, Achan Man calls the knowing one, Puru in Thai. And this knowing one, if it is more obvious to you that there is a knowing and awareness in you, you stay with that. It is the same thing. That feeling of the self or that knowing, the awareness, you stay with it. Another way is, if it is not, both these are not so obvious, is to ask yourself. In Chinese they have this koan they call 我是谁. Usually it's translated in the books as who am I. But unfortunately, if you use these words, who am I, people tend to meditate on the who, and that is the wrong thing to practice. You should meditate on the I. So an alternative translation is I am who, or I am what. You practice on this meditation, you ask yourself, I am what? In other words, what do I take myself to be? So that is the third object you can have. I am what? Now for some people, their minds are very, to put it a bit costly, a bit scattered, so that they have a lot of thinking. And because of a lot of thinking, all these three ways is not easily practiced. So if you find the mind is so full of thoughts that you cannot practice the first three ways, then you just remind yourself, I am here in the present. I am here in the present. Why? Because if you don't remind yourself that I am here in the present, thoughts, you will be following thoughts. And when you follow thoughts, the thoughts either bring you to the past or bring you to the future. You are never in the present. So that is why you keep telling yourself, I am here in the present. And as long as you are in the present here, the thoughts don't arise. If the thoughts arise and you follow them, you are either in the past or the future. So these are the four objects you can practice. One is to practice on the obvious feeling of I exist or I am. Second one is the knowing mind or the awareness. The third one is to ask yourself, I am what? The fourth one is to remind yourself, I am here in the present. So let us sit for about half an hour on this practice, and then if you have questions, we can discuss. If you practice the sati of remembering that this body and this mind is not I, is not mine, is not myself, there is a great difference from the normal state of a person. The normal state of a person is conscious of all that is happening around him, but he does not remember that he is not this person, this body and this mind. He gets caught up with all the affairs of this world, with all the thinking, but he has no sati. He does not remember that he is not this body and not this mind. It's only when you remember that you can find a way out of samsara, which is eventually to see and realize that this body and this mind is not you.